Real psychic stories. A ghost boy named David.
Janelle, when was the first time that you had a real psychic experience?
Yes, okay. So let's tell the story from the beginning. Alright, so when I was 17, I used to go to work in Sydney. It took an hour and a half to get there and an hour and a half to get home every day. And I met this girl on the train. We used to have fun, and it was the early 90s. And she was a very vivacious type of girl, and she was full of fun and nice to be around. She used to make me laugh, and we both had like a punky gothic sort of side, which was nice. And we used to laugh a lot. She used to make me laugh a lot, and that was nice. And we became really good friends. She was a promiscuous type of girl, and I didn't care because I really liked her. She had a bad rep, and then I was hanging around her, but I didn't really care because, I wasn't doing the things she was doing. So to me, it didn't really matter. And I just wanted to have fun with this girl, and she seemed to be really nice, really fun. So I hung out with her a lot.
Wow, what happens next?
Yeah, well, it came about when one night she said to me to come and stay at her house. You have to remember, she never told me anything about her childhood or how she grew up or anything about her family. I just knew she lived with her mum in this house. And so I, packed my bags, went to her house, and I was thinking we were going to have this really good night and we were going to have a lot of fun. But anyway, when I got there, she had been on the phone to this guy, and then she said to me, "Oh, you don't mind if this man comes over?" And I said, "Oh, okay, well, if that's what you're doing." I felt a little bit left out. She said, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I just, want to sort of have sex with this guy." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, what should I do?" Because you invited me over, duh. And so what happened was she said, "Oh, you can sleep in the spare room."
What? Bloody hell!
Yeah, so when I was escorted to the spare room, she gave me some snacks and a drink, and I said, "Oh, look, I'll just let you do whatever you're doing now, and good night." And I went into the room, and I proceeded to room in for the night, and I got into my bed. It was a double bunk, and I was sleeping on the bottom. There was all this kid paraphernalia from a boy, and it made me wonder what that was about. There was old-fashioned 70s curtains with horse patterns on the curtains, like a boy might have, or, a young girl even. But there was some certain things that were in that room that reminded me of a child. But anyway, I didn't ask because obviously I wasn't going to go back outside to see what was going on or to ask anything. So I stuck it out and stayed in the room. But once I was in the room, something started occurring, which was quite phenomenal. And I was basically pretty much, as soon as I was in there, was approached by a ghost, or what I worked out to be a ghost. And it really freaked me out. But because I knew what my friend was doing in the other room, I couldn't just walk out there and talk about what was happening. So basically, all night, I endured this person and they were making their presence very clear. They were touching me. They were trying, like what I would feel is if they would like to get into the bed, to go to sleep. And I was in their way. That's what it felt like. And they articulated with me all night. And the presence was so strong. It was like they didn't have a body, but it was like all the senses were alive. Like I could feel them. I could feel them touching my hair. I could feel them moving around and where they were, like where they were standing. And it was a really long night because it was quite scary. I'd never experienced this before, and I didn't really know what was going on. And obviously I was left by myself to actually just have to deal with this until morning. So it was quite petrifying. I was quite still, and my eyes were like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And so when I awoke in the morning, the first thing I thought of was all the terrible things that were happening the night before. How a ghost was trying to articulate with me in a telepathic sense, and all the things that I felt. Then I sat and I listened, because I thought, I hope that the guy that was there the night before, I hope that they'd gone home. I mean, I don't want to go knocking on my friend's door and walk into something I don't want to walk into. So I thought, well, I'll get up, go to the toilet. Now it's daylight. And I'll approach my friend on this subject. So I got her up, and then I started talking to her about all of the things that I went through in the night. And I said to her, there was no way that I could feel comfortable getting up to tell you these things in the night. So I just had to endure it all night. And she had the most profound reaction to what I was saying. Firstly, she started crying, and it was very intense. And because she started crying, and because I'm a Cancerian, I started crying too. And then she totally broke down and started telling me all the things that had happened in her childhood. And so what had happened is she and her mum and brother had been victims of domestic violence, and her brother had taken his own life. He was a youth, so around the 13-year age. This is really heavy stuff. And they tried to reach out to authorities to get their father to stop drinking and being abusive. But the abuse was too much. And the boy's name was David. He ended up taking his own life in the room that I was sleeping in. And well, I was in a state of shock from hearing all of this. And she told me that the father went to jail, and he hadn't come out. But it was really, really bad because the boy killing himself was actually the turning point for the investigation of the domestic violence. Whereas these mother and children had tried to reach out to authorities for a long time, to no avail. And this is the tragedy of what happens when victims aren't listened to. So when I was talking to my friend about the boy, she said she believes that it's him who was in the room. I said, yeah, I believe it was him as well. Oh, it's very, very sad. It changed my young life. I was 17. I stayed friends with this girl for a long time. But as she got older, she became more addicted to drugs, couldn't find the healing that was needed, and I lost contact because I couldn't go down the path that she was going down. So we were separated at that point. I still think about her every day and her brother, and it keeps me wary of people. So it was a big lesson in that. And that's the first time that I ever had a psychic experience. It really opened my eyes up to a lot of things, and it made me aware that there's much more going on than what you could imagine. And it sparked my journey into seeking the spiritual side of myself and developing my psychic ability. So it was a life-changing event. I hope that some people get some learning out of this video. If you don't tell a story, it sort of dies with you. So as a psychic, I intend to tell more stories so that they don't get lost in my death. Okay, so thanks for watching, and if you start following me, I can tell you more stories, and that would be really cool. Okay, thanks so much. Bye for now.